Welcome to British History X and welcome to my channel. One of the things I want to talk about here is one of the things that inspired me to make this channel was Ross Broadstock and obviously British hidden history, which I recommend you go to the channel and check out the array of videos that Ross had done. It's absolutely brilliant. But one of the things that Ross mentioned in his works was the suppression of British history. And Wilson and Blackett talk about this as well in their numerous books. And what I try and do in British History X is show you the clear-cut examples and the recent clear-cut examples of how the mainstream media and mainstream archaeology suppress the history of the Britons. And today I found an article that's 10 hours old on the BBC website of a burial in modern-day Yorkshire that is automatically, as you can see here, been classified as Roman burial. And we're going to go through the article, and I'm going to show you how the article absolutely and utterly contradicts itself, but also is blatant suppression of the Britons. So if we start off with the article, it talks about the skeletal remains of a high-status Roman woman. Don't know how they know she's Roman. Maybe they got a time machine, went back in time, talked to her in Latin, and she said, "Yeah, I'm a Roman. I'm a Roman citizen from so and so province, and I'm just here on holiday in Britain." So maybe that's how she's a Roman woman. But I like to think maybe she's a British woman who spoke Brythonic, and yes, she may have had some cultural traits that you could explain were Roman, because the Britons obviously lived during the Roman era. Yes, as we know, but to me, she was a British woman, or a high-status Briton. But obviously, they've just come up to the conclusion that she's a Roman woman because she was, found within a certain period of time. And she was encased in a lead coffin that had been unearthed at a hidden cemetery dating back 1600 years. They then go on to say that this Roman cemetery was then used by the Saxons at a later date. Now, I'm assuming here that the Britons that were occupying that place had perhaps migrated west, and that Saxons had eventually come in and used this place for their own burial sites. But if we go on and read the article further, and this is the most blatant suppression of British history I've ever seen. We're going to read these two paragraphs here, right? So the first paragraph is: archaeologists who worked on the evacuation hope the site can help chart the largely undocumented and historically important transition between the fall, right? They say largely undocumented. If you read Ross Broadstock's work, if you read Wilson and Blackett, perhaps it's not largely undocumented because they have documented this period, and especially Wilson and Blackett, they've done some brilliant work here. But obviously it's largely undocumented to these people. Archaeologists who worked on this evacuation hope that the site can help chart the largely undocumented and historically important transition between the fall of the Roman Empire in about 400 AD. Just want to point out something. The Roman Empire never actually fell in 400 AD. There was a breakup of the Western Roman Empire. The Eastern Roman Empire, which was predominantly Greek-speaking in its administration, they would carry on as normal. They were actually even expanding during that era. And the establishment of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms that followed. So straight away, it's Roman and it's Saxon. Don't even associate it to the British. Right, this is where they absolutely contradict themselves, and it's unbelievable. Mr. Hunter said that the discovery would also help fill in historical gaps around the kingdom of Elmet. I mean, how blatant is this? For those that don't understand the kingdom of Elmet, it is a classic British kingdom. It's a kingdom of the Britons. And it was around the 4th, 5th, 6th centuries AD that the kingdom of Elmet in the Old North existed, and it's mentioned in numerous works and by numerous bards. Reghead, Gogothen, Elmet, they are mentioned in numerous works. These are classic British kingdoms, which says, so what they're saying, it's a Roman grave. This is a Roman woman. But they can kind of link the grave back to the kingdom of Elmet, which was a British kingdom, right? What that means is that's really saying that this is a British grave. This is a Briton that is in that grave and those numerous other graves, that this is a site where the Britons in that kingdom would bury their dead. But they can't say that. They can't even admit that this is, it's either Roman or it's Saxon, and they can't even talk. It's like as though the Britons don't exist, but they do want to know a little bit more about this kingdom. And this site, this discovery will lead them to that. But they can't admit that it's Britons. They can't say it's the Britons. The Britons, they got to remember, don't exist. So who was this woman? Well, I guarantee you this woman would have been a high status British woman. She would have been a Briton speaking the Brythonic language. And yes, she may have had some Roman traits in terms of maybe what they wore or maybe headdress. But again, doesn't mean she's Roman. That's really important. She doesn't mean it's Roman. To the mainstream academia, it's either Roman or it's Saxon. So this is classic, ridiculous suppression of the history of the Britons themselves. And they just give it away, don't they? They give it away with their own stupidity. It's Roman, but we want to know more about the kingdom of Elmet. So the kingdom of Elmet's British, isn't it? So are you going to now admit that supposedly Roman woman is a Briton? No, you're not, are you? It's just, to these mainstream, it's just a Briton. So I'm sorry to go off on another rant, but this really winds me up. And, I'm going to keep doing these videos. Please like, subscribe, share these videos. I give you permission to share them. So if you want to share them on your Facebook page, if you want to send them on to other people that perhaps, who work in mainstream archaeology and mainstream academia, tell them to listen to my video, and I ask them to challenge me on this. Yeah, I declare, I throw down the gauntlet. Why do you come up with such stupidity? Why do you come up with such stupidity? And this isn't the journalist from the BBC. The journalist would have their sources from the people on the ground. And the people on the ground will be calling this woman a Roman woman. Okay? They won't be admitting it's a Briton. It's a British woman. It's a Briton. Right? They would have been speaking the Brythonic language. Right? It's this suppression of our history, which is just so annoying. It just goes from Rome to the Saxons, but we want to know more about this British kingdom, but we just won't admit that who actually lived in the kingdom of Elmet. Yeah, perhaps they were Romans, not Britons. It's just this ridiculous. Sounds ridiculous. Anyway, that's enough for me. Like, subscribe, share this, and have a great evening until the next one.